Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is iConis Hotshots for our Patreons. Wow, we haven't done this in a while. So we're back with season 2 of the iConis podcast, and now we're doing iConis Hotshots. Hot shots. We don't do enough of these, and we're going to do a lot more. I promise you this. So thank you all for subscribing to the channel and supporting the iConis podcast, iConis Hot Shots. Myself, Barry 3D. Thank you. On my side, as always,
DJ Rod C. Hey, that's me. What's up,
DJ Rod C. And we're going to get down to the meat and potatoes of it. Here we go. Generally speaking, when we're talking about nerd culture and all this stuff, we go down memory lane. And the times we go down memory lane, you remember certain things. For me, it's the toy figures, it's the action figures, it's the old school. I'm an old school guy, so when I was coming up, there was no apps. You couldn't play an app of Tomb Raider, you couldn't play an app of Hitman on your phone. You had to go out to the stores and get the toy figures, and then you had to let your imagination go, or beg mom and dad to shell out a little bit more money to get that cool playset. Now, yeah, exactly. Playsets that come to mind that stand out. I mean, first and foremost, I think it's up there. I'm not sure which one is a little bit more popular. This is just a general discussion. Is the G.I. Joe USS Flag. If you knew somebody with the aircraft carrier, it was 6 feet. 6 feet. It can hold a Sky Striker on it, along with multiple figures on different levels. That was the ultimate playset.
Yeah. Resistance. That was the big thing. That was G.I. Joe. You brought a good point. If someone had the flagship, that was nice. Listen, even that, we can talk about. We'll go to that. We can go to Transformers. These are two iconic flagships that you would always find at least every person who was into comics and anime, cartoons and stuff like that. If they had a chance to have at least one toy, it was either a G.I. Joe or a Transformer.
Right.
Especially back in the days. That's what you came off. I remember I had an Optimus Prime, and there you go. That's what we're talking about.
If your friend had a USS Flag, you were at his house all the time. You made sure your homework was done. You made sure your chores were done. And then every time your parents say, "You coming over?" It's like, "No, I'm going down to Philip's house." And and you would just be there for hours in awe, playing with this huge thing that took up a majority of his room. It was probably bigger than the bed. So the USS Flag. And that's what, to me, it brings back a good feeling. And I think they've done other play sets, G.I. Joe, but the Flag will always be the number one play set, even better than the G.I. Joe base. The number one play set out of that, line of toys for G.I. Joe. But he got shrunk down to 6 3/4.5 inches or whatever. Right. So, shrinkage, it happens. But that's what I'm talking about, the Flag. And got me thinking, right? What other, like you mentioned Transformers, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm with you. And with Transformers, you had Optimus Prime, and Optimus Prime had the trailer, and people always wonder where the trailer went when he changed in the cartoon. They've explained it on different YouTube, theories. Yep. That was my thing. I think it only came out recently, and even then it still pales in comparison. The main piece missing from Transformers was the Ark.
Facts. Did they ever have, they never had a full Ark. Did they ever have a section of it? I can't recall that.
What they did at one point was like a kind of a cardboard backdrop.
Right. Yes,
that they did.
I have a visual of that. That's why I remember like a section off of it. Right. Okay.
Yeah, but it was made out of cardboard. So, once again, overuse, that thing's going to fall apart. It's not going to stand the test of time as the US flag was. Right. Yeah. So that's why I say Transformers, you made the Ark. All you had to do was do a room with Teletran 1, something spins, and, a medical bay, and maybe a little weapons locker, and a place that can drive in and drive out, roll out. They missed the mark on that. That's to be. But again, it's kind of hard because the Transformers were various heights.
So, correct. And I can see why maybe they had the thought on the table, but someone would actually come and say, well, you got Optimus, who is this high. Then you got Bumblebee, and if the child only had the opportunity to have maybe see the 3-inch version, like it's too the ratio is too diverse, so we can't
Yeah.
make something specifically for all both sides. And it's like you're absolutely correct. That was a miss mark, but guaranteed, if Hasbro had put in to do that, yeah, that would definitely be one of those landmarks type of toys that will be in collectors rooms, just like
as a collector, you'd be chasing that down if you didn't have
just
it even up to now.
clean that dust off of that and chasing that for now. Like, what? You have the Ark?
Right?
I'll give you life for it. I'll die 2 seconds after, but take my life.
Take my life. Right? So that's one is I really believe and this is like a kind of a hit and miss. So maybe it's a hit and miss conversation. So
Yeah.
Transformers, it was a miss. G.I. Joe, it was a hit. Now, being older, we're a little bit older. We've had different playsets, and I've seen them kind of devolve in time to a certain degree. And maybe that's the way the times are. You know, now the playsets are really coveted by collectors as opposed to kids getting them. Right? Yeah. You know, back in the day, you saw Star Wars. Kenner came out with all the figures, and then Kenner came out with the Millennium Falcon, and everyone was like, yes, must have. And if I don't have it, I need to find a friend that has it. It was almost like during the summer, you got to find a friend that had a pool, a friend that had the flag, a friend that had the Falcon, and you were out there. That was your summer. How was your summer vacation? You want to write 500 words on that? Watch me. You know, hold my juice box. Hold my Perrette sip sack, my 10-set sip sack that I got from Perrette corner store. For those
all my freezy. Get my freezy. I'm good to go.
Get my freezy, right? That would be it. So going back, I always think that a toy line should at least have one staple piece. Doesn't have to come out right away, but one staple piece. And if it has more, great. Now, due to, you know, the demand, pricing, plastic, because of the oil crisis back in the day and prices of oil going up, it was more costly to make some of these bigger places. This is why G.I. Joe went from a 12-inch doll to a 3/4 size, right? And there was a whole team instead of, you know, G.I. Joe himself with a big scruffy beard. And his stuff, like if you look at the original 12-inch doll, now keep in mind, this is 12 inches. Yeah. He had a Jeep that was fully detailed that he can sit in and drive.
I remember seeing that.
He had a helicopter. He had it was almost like a kite. So it was like a double feature kind of thing. It was a glider, but it was a nice big yellow thing. So the top was shaped like a traditional kite, and then the piece would connect underneath it that had a chair that he could sit in there. And you could go out to the park and you could really fly it like a kite. G.I. Joe would be at 30, 40 feet up in the air, and you could still do stuff like a kite with him up there. And still, so it was an interactive imagination thing going on. You know, I had that one when I was a kid. There was another one, like a swamp vehicle he had that came with a manta ray. Okay. So these, once again, G.I. Joe, small, big, had cool accessories, play sets. And even though it wasn't a play set, he had pieces. Right. And that's what's always stood out to me. So the reason that kind of sparked this conversation is because Mattel came out with a special edition for Comic-Con, and it was a limited run they had going on. And I said, I saw it and it clicked into me and I had to get it. So I'll do some proper pictures later on and put it up on our Instagram page, but it's called Back in Action. And it comes with 3 figures. Even though they're shrunk down modern day, but it's still the memories, right? Of Big Jim, Pulsar, right? The Ultimate Man, and Major Matt Mason. So, and these things come individually wrapped. I took them out the case just to look at them, and it brought me back. Like there was a couple of misses. So Major Matt Mason, I like the details. I liked everything. He's got his astronaut uniform on. I wish they gave him an astronaut helmet. Right? Okay. I mean, if you're an astronaut, should have an astronaut helmet. But you know what? I'm not hating on it because clearly I bought it and I'm still very happy. You know, Pulsar, the Ultimate Man, the Ultimate Man of Adventure, Pulsar. Pulsar and you remember you used to push a button on the back and in his chest, you would see his lungs inflate, deflate, the blood would pump through his chest and all that. And he actually came with a table that would fix him. right? Or you could monitor him, and it was just had a little slidey, piece for the original 12-inch figure. I think he was 12 inches. If not, he was close to it when he first came out. So that was it. But this one always got to be. This is Big Jim. Well, he's not so big now, but this is Big Jim back in action. And he's the leader, he was the leader of the Big Jim's pack, which had a whole acronym. The cool thing about this is, and this box, they still put, and it's hard to see because I have my ring light on here. So they still went with the original art that was done by Jack Kirby that used to be on the original box.
Nice.
When it first, let me get my figure here, where it first came out. So that's Jack Kirby art right there. That's bringing me back. Big Jim was a little bit smaller than G.I. Joe, so it wasn't a full 12 inches. He had a lot of interactive. He had different clothes you could put onto him. He had a full team that would join him. He had his Corvette. He had a van, that was all in black that was very similar to, or no, it was brown. Sorry, it was brown. He had a black one and a brown one that was very similar to the Evel Knievel one, which I'll mention in a minute.
Right.
But the staple for Big Jim for me was his plane. It was a carrying case. I think it was Eagle One or something like that. It was a big carrying case. And then when you'd open it in half. And then the back half would have the tail of the plane. And the front half would actually have the cockpit that you would swing out. And you would be able to put the chair in there. You could put it high up on a table. And then a crane would come out from the side. And it would almost, you pretend that the plane can hover. And then it would roll down this crane to pick up anything, like a person that was lying down, or if it was a basket, you need someone standing up. It had a lot of interactive pieces. So it was a playset itself. It was my favorite piece. I got Big Jim, and as soon as I got Big Jim, that action figure, I always wanted it. And I remember my parents I couldn't find it here in Canada. Every Labor Day weekend, my parents would go up to New York to visit family. I would go, obviously. And I said, I'm looking for this thing, because if you can't find it in Montreal, you can definitely find it in New York. And let me tell you, I found it in New York in some little thrift store kind of thing. The whole thing was there complete. I'm like, look at this. I was like, Dad. He's like, all right, this is what you came for. Boom. And went back, and I had this thing. It was like huge, going across the border, 8-hour drive. He's like, you're holding it. I'm like, no problem. No one else is touching this. I went this far. Yeah. So
get your hands off. Get your hands off.
I don't care if you border security. It's about to go down. Don't right. So this is what brings back those memories, and I would still love to get the original set. I mean, even though they came up with this new toy line, and I know Mattel did this as a specialty line figure, I would still like them to see them do the plain set, size appropriate for these new ones. I would buy it just to have the backdrop to say one goes with the other. Like I'm so bad. I should have bought two. I only bought one. I should have bought two of these things before they sold out. One to keep closed, one to open, and especially if they turn around and come out with a playset. Missed opportunities.
Nah, you will find it. It's out there. Don't worry.
Well, they haven't made it yet. I know I want to get the original one, right? But they haven't made it yet. But we all know this is the stuff that you have to have the figure, you have to have the villain, and you need either the vehicle that's going to stand out or the playset. One of the two, right? If you got both, amazing.
Right.
Yeah. I said I can go on for this for days, man. I mean, and Mattel, for me, that was my company, because they came up with the Evel Knievel action figure with his van that had a trailer that would bring along his motorcycles, and then part of the panel would slide out, and it was fully interactive with a toolbox, the ramp, you could make him jump over his own van. Come on, man.
Memories, guy. Memories. Listen, like you were talking about the Millennium Falcon and stuff like that. I had like I said, I had Transformers, but on Star Wars, I had the Darth Vader's TIE Fighter.
Right.
So I remember having that. And again, it was all, it had the ability to hit a certain button, whatever the case to be, and then the wings can just,
pop off. Yes, I remember that.
Pop off.
I remember you had that, yeah.
And I was like, yo, that was my thing. Yeah. Went off. Then you guys start, trying to I can't turn him over as he flies around in some circle because he lost a wing. But it was hilarious. So listen, I understand completely the the connection that one would have with these toys, like having these action figures brings it opens up a door of excitement, a door of adventure that anyone when we're growing up would play with. And like I'm saying, like even right now, we're having good memories on these toy figures that again, the business on that aspect, you go and see. Listen, I went to Fan Expo here in Toronto 2022.
Yeah.
It was crazy when I'm going down in the different aisles and you're seeing all the toys, all the action figures, seeing the big individuals like, how much is for that? And it's not like I just get it. No, people are focused and serious about all these different items. Like it was a great joy. I was like, this is wonderful. That kind of scenario. It was a wonderful thing. So listen, if you are interested in that type of realm, please go find your local comic store. Find a store that is selling these type of items. Find
Yes.
some. If you have if you have a character that you love, I'm not even saying you remember from back then. Back then that's perfect, but even now you have a character that you watch and you read up, you watch and anything like that. And there's an action figure, there's a toy figure for it. Complete your joyous connection to it. I'm just saying.
Don't let the money hold you back, man. Don't miss out on
Yeah,
the opportunity, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, I can't remember if I have it packed away. I got to double check. I think I got it. It's been a while since I pulled it out. So Justice League Unlimited,
Okay,
those toys that came out, right? Just like they're done the same way as the art style of the cartoon. And
right.
I like them. And then of course they expanded the line. And there's one figure that I wanted for a while because I just love this character. And I found him at a comic book store here in Hamilton. And that's my boy, Orion of the New Gods. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, have to have it. Have to have it. I missed out the original time. Have to have it. So I went and picked this up. Why it brought me back that for their toy line, they came up with the Justice League satellite, their orbital base
Right,
as a
right,
playset.
right, right,
Right.
right,
Brian actually still has it. I think Brian's got
right,
two. My brother, he's
right,
got two, and he's got them both in the box. He opened one and he left the other one sealed in the box. Never used, never touched. All the pieces, stickers, everything. Like it's never been opened. The
right.
box is in pristine condition. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Play sets. We go back. I mentioned Evil Knievel, Big Jim. I was talking about the original GI Joe, the 12-inch figure. Those are the play sets that really, made the toy line. And for myself, why it's so important on the play set is because when growing up, we were watching stuff like Stingray, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, and they were puppets, but the puppets were inside, their backdrops scaled the size of the puppet, right? Be it from regardless of the machine they were in. So if they were driving, flying, whatever, and they had different sizes, but you always see the puppets inside, Fireball XL, XL5, and okay.
Yep.
It was done to size. To me, it was like, it's like the equivalent of watching a 3D animated cartoon when it first came out.
Facts.
Right?
Facts.
Back then, it was, I want that toy and the play set to interact with. That was a joy. Don't get enough of that now. And I don't know why, but I find that's a shame. I'm not saying everyone had a big hit, but like if you look back at the original Star Trek episodes with Captain Kirk, Spock, and all that, they had a play set. It was a carrying case and it would open 3 ways. And I know the two of my buddies had that. There are 2 brothers, Tom and Stevie, and they had that play set that you go there and you could spin it. So it almost looked like it's teleporting down with a teleporter and all that. Once again, well done, made out of vinyl, good sturdy material, carrying case. It was light. These are the pieces I think that every toy line should always think, what is going to be the staple that everyone's going to buy and interact? Correct. I mean, we know the famous one of, Castle Grayskull.
I was about to say, you can go with He-Man and then Castle Grayskull. That was a famous staple that everybody idolized. People did pick up. I mean, that was a good flagship for Mattel at that time, and it definitely helped carry on the foundation for He-Man toy line, going on because you actually had a place where you can actually say, well, the defender, the protector, the savior of Castle Grayskull. Well, if he's a savior, let's get him a Castle Grayskull and have it there.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful thing to have.
So, followed by Snake Mountain, right? So these are the staples. Come on, you had one, you had the other. If you had both, you were the most popular kid on the block.
You were commanding people.
Right.
No, you is basically you just turn into you're basically inside, and one of your friends was like bouncing like, no, you can come. Okay, you can come in. Yeah. All right, you're good.
Picture Bart Simpson and Millhouse. Millhouse is working the door. It's like, you in the back, you can come in. Nelson, you can come in. Martin, sorry, you got to keep on waiting. What's that, Martin? You got a collector's edition of Barney's got a collector's edition. He can come in. He can come in.
Let him in.
Right. You had to, the staples that were there, and now with 3D printers, people are going about and making it, doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I said some of them hit, man. So as I said, G.I. Joe hit. Star Wars hit. Transformers, you missed it. You know why? Because I look at GoBots, and GoBots had their command center one that would hold the figures, fly around, then stand up, open up, and they would have it. So GoBots.
Yeah, they picked up on that.
They had it. It's like that's what I think was missing from Transformers, in my opinion. It was I wanted a staple. I wanted the Ark. Right? Something along those lines. And I mean, I know they came up with it now.
Yeah,
but they had to make a smaller Optimus Prime to make it size appropriate, and it's nice. And they make the Ark Transformer, and it's nice. But I wanted at least something, right? Even Robotech came out with their command center for the SDF, which is a piece that I'm missing from my collection because I have the rest of the Robotech stuff. Rick Hunter's, Veritech, and Biroids, and Bretai's pods. I got them. They're packed away. I got them, but I don't have that. So I and I think one of the toys I remember the most, and I'll let you go after Rod. One of the toys I remember the most, believe it or not, was Fisher Price.
Okay.
Fisher Price had, when it's coming out, the toy figures and all that, they didn't have a lot of points of articulation, right? You can just move the arms, move the legs. One arm's always kind of bent, or one leg's always bent, when the other leg's straight, kind of put him in an action pose. It was Fisher Price that first came out with that 3/4 size action figure. And then Kenner looked at it and went, we can copy them, save money, and put out the Star Wars figures because Fisher Price is flying off the shelf. Now, if you're thinking Fisher Price, where they had the figures that were just round in the head, where you had like the Fisher Price castle for a younger age, those are fun. I had that when I was younger. But then they got a little bit more detailed. And you had, one of my favorite toys was the space one, because I always like space travel, sci-fi guy. And it was called the Alpha Probe, which was a mini space shuttle that came with 2 figures. They would fit inside. It had sound effects on it. I remember I got it for Christmas. That was it. I was like, So the Alpha Probe by Fisher Price to me was that. And then he did a whole space line around those figures. Even before that, you had a rescue helicopter. And that's the thing with Fisher Price.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now you're looking at it, right? Right? You're looking at it. So Fisher Price had a whole line, not just them. I was a huge Fisher Price. I was the poster boy for Fisher Price on my blog.
You were. Yeah, you were.
You remember that, right? You look at it.
That's I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. The Jungle Safari set, which was the family of 4 with the Jeep, and they had the trailer in the back that would pop up as a tent, and it would also double as a carry case. Not a carry case, but a trailer to bring around 2 cages. One had a lion, one had a giraffe. That's to show you how my memory is. Then there was the TV crew van, which came with a chubby guy, a skinny guy, and a black woman. And I was like, "No, that's revolutionary at the time." And it was and it had a working camera, like there were a TV crew with scaffolding and everything that would fit into that van. And so I had that. Then there was the sports van, where it came with 2 guys, and that was the first time one of the figures could actually bend his knees. And that figure went on a motocross. So you had a motocross that came with it, came with a parachute, it came with a kayak, and had and the van was green with like a swirl design on the side, and everyone could fit into the van, and you could play right. So then there was the I don't know what that was called, but I think it was like the Sea Rescue or Sea Explorers. So it was a man and a woman. They always did their figures as male and female in pairs, and they came on a boat, the boat had little tiny wheels underneath the boat, so you wouldn't see it. So you could play with it on land.
Right.
But it came with a plastic dolphin that if you put in the water, it would act like a little squirt gun. The boat would float. They would have their own scuba gear, so you could play with it on land. It had another submergible diving piece on the back, so you could play with it on land, or you could take it into the bathtub. It would float. It wouldn't sink. It would float. You would put it in, bloop, it would float. It was dual purpose. So those were my toys. And then, of course, there was the rescue chopper that came with a black guy and a white guy, and this white chopper that had a raft on it, and it had like grappling hooks underneath it with a trigger that you could hours. And not one of these figures ever came with a gun.
Right.
They never came with any kind of violent tendencies. It's not to say, oh, it's an action hero or he's a villain. No, it was a stunt pilot.
Yep.
Rescue this. TV crew. Space exploration.
Adventure type of products. Yeah.
Yes, I think it was called Adventure People, the whole line.
Yeah. Yeah, that exactly is. It was called, Adventure People. Good memory. Good memory.
Gray matter still working. So
you read the box.
I'm doing that all out of memory. That's what I'm talking about. So that toy line to me was like fire. And the thing is, there was no comic book to it. Right. There was no cartoon to it.
Right.
It just appealed. You walked in, you're like, it's a full out play set. It's not you're just buying a figure and then you got to buy the vehicle after. It was one and done. Fisher Price said, here's the box. Here's the figures. Here's accessories. Here's the vehicle. Thank you. Sweave on next.
Right. We're done.
You know, beyond that, my only other line that I crave up to now, Micronauts. And we will go through this on our main channel one day, but Micronaut, that's you. I still want Galactic Defender, Space Glider, and I need the Astral Station. Which was in the comic book. All of them. Okay. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. What about you, Rod? What are you gonna say? What things bring you back down memory lane?
Listen, we're talking about, let's say, I can bring up Thundercats, like Thundercats, Voltron. Voltron was the Lions. That was one of my favorites. I remember having one of the Lions. Wasn't able to get all of them, but from a young age, I was able to get one Lion. Right. But that was again me having at least a part of it, having Star Wars, Transformers, I believe I had He-Man. I definitely knew I had a He-Man and Battle Cat combo. I had that. So I mean, these are the toys that definitely resonate with me. I had enough times. I had a lot of fun playing with these figures, having adventures, just taking it in and just realizing, listen, I could be just like disappear for like hours. You just like, it was like, the boy still alive? Okay, he's still alive. All right, cool. You want something to eat? Oh, good. Okay. All right. Cool. And that's it. You don't have to worry about me after homework's done and all that kind of thing.
Gone.
If I wasn't reading, I wasn't that. But most of the time that brought me, that type of adventure, I can say, led me into reading like adventure, sci-fi books and stuff like that. Because the imagination was there. You just built off of that. So having these characters and having all these figures, the action figures, for ventures and anything like that was a good staple. Like I do remember playing with a lot of action figures when I was coming up and stuff along that line. So yeah, yes.
Right on, man. I mean, come on. I mean, and last put it off. It's like, and here's another one, Hot Wheels and Matchbox.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like Hot Wheels. You see, the thing is, you wouldn't even, beautiful that you brought Hot Wheels, because we have to step back and look at the bigger picture of it. Right. Hot Wheels is an action figure in that regard. The amount of time you can have fun with Hot Wheels, listen, woo, and just like, and then you get the tracks. If I remember, you had the tracks.
Yes. I had the tracks because there's a couple of things that stood out. So I had the tracks, and I liked the Hot Wheels. And then I got into Matchbox because Matchbox had more of the set. So Matchbox had this beige two level thing. So it was a carry case, but when you flip it open, it was a garage, and you could put your car at the top, and it would zigzag all the way down the bottom.
I remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, and it had like a garage to actually park them in there, like maintenance bay and a whole 9 yards. So I was into the two of them, and you always wanted to find the funky, cool cars, right? You had your, of course, the realistic, classic looking cars, and then you had the futuristic looking ones. And there was a particular couple of them that I would like. So for Matchbox, my favorite was always the fire truck. There was a fire truck in there, and I just found it so futuristic looking. I'm like, yeah. And there was a couple other cars that stood out for me. So, oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You let's put it this way. If you see something right now and you see a set, go and get the set. The wife will understand. The boyfriend will understand. The husband. It doesn't matter who your partner is, they'll understand. Understand, you can't put a price on happiness, but sometimes these figures will bring you, just looking at them brings you back to good memories. And this is why I'm trying to recapture stuff from my own personal collection, so I can just sit there going, it's not so much the fact that I want to get it because it's worth X. This to me is not about what it's worth. It's what it brings back, back in action. It's not what it's worth. It's not about what it will be worth to me one day. It'd be nice if it is, but it's the memories that it brings back to me. It's a tangible memory.
Completely.
Right? That I can hold on to and say, oh yeah, I remember this, just like this conversation was. So that's my 2 cents there, Rod.
All right. Well, that's a good 2 cents. And thank you for allowing me to put my cent and a half in there as well.
Cool. Well, on that note, once again, this has been iConis Hotshots. Right? With yours, Barry 3D.
Rod C.
Right on. And remember, this whole world was created by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. Thank you for supporting. And we will get people's names up at the end once people start jumping on here, just to say a thank you as a support for the channel. And look for our other stuff that you would see online, be it YouTube or our podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. On that note, peace.
See ya.